Hi, I'm Ruji Kulkarni. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to do the chapter Madam Rides the Bus from First Flight of Class 10th. This chapter is written by Valli Kannan. The story Madam Rides the Bus is about a brave 8-year-old girl named Valli who had a strong desire as well as the courage to fulfill it. She wanted to ride on a bus. So she gathered the relevant information like the bus timings, its fare, and its destination. She planned and calculated the time and money required for this bus journey. And in this story, we come to know how innocently but responsibly she fulfilled this desire of hers and what she experienced during her bus ride. After the bus ride, she understands how the outside world is and what death actually means. So let's read and understand this wonderful and entertaining story, followed by the significance of title, its moral, and summary with question answers. However, let's know about its author, Valli Kannan, first. Valli Kannan was born on 12th November 1920 in Tirunelveli, Tamil Nadu, India. Valli Kannan is the nickname of R. S. Krishnaswamy, who was a Tamil writer, journalist, critic, and translator. He started writing at a very young age and had published 25 books by the time he was 30. He worked for magazines like Cinema Ullagam, Navasakti, Gram Ozia, and Hanuman. He wrote a total of 75 books in his life, including novels, poetry collections, plays, and essay anthologies. He was presented with Sahitya Akademi Award in 1978. He died on 9th November 2006 in Chennai. In this sensitive story, an 8-year-old girl's first bus journey into the world outside her village is also her induction into the mystery of life and death. Induction means process of transforming or going into something new. She sees the gap between our knowing that there is death and our understanding of it. So basically this story, Madam Rides the Bus, is about an 8-year-old girl who has her first bus journey. And while she was in this journey, she understood what life and death was. She understood that there is a gap between knowing what is death and ultimately understanding what is death. Let's read this interesting and humorous story, Madam Rides the Bus, and know what happens here. There was a girl named Valliammai who was called Valli for short. She was 8 years old and very curious about things. Her favorite pastime was standing in the front doorway of her house, watching what was happening in the street outside. There were no playmates of her own age on her street, and this was about all she had to do. But for Valli, standing in the front door was every bit as enjoyable as any of the elaborate games other children played. Elaborate means complicated. Watching the street gave her many new unusual experiences. The most fascinating thing of all was the bus that traveled between her village and the nearest town. It passed through her street each hour, once going to the town and once coming back. The sight of the bus, filled each time with a new set of passengers, was a source of unending joy for Valli. This story is about a girl named Valliammai, and in short, she was called Valli. She was 8 years old and very curious. Her favorite pastime was to stand at the door of her house and watch whatever was happening in the street outside. She did not have any friends on that street, but she enjoyed what she was doing. For her, standing at the front door and enjoying anything that was happening outside was as much enjoyable as any complicated game which other children would play. Watching the street gave her many experiences. Valli was most attracted to the bus that traveled between her village and the nearest town. It passed her street every hour, and each hour that bus would carry different set or different group of passengers. The sight of that bus gave her lot of happiness. Day after day, she watched the bus, and gradually a tiny wish crept into her head and grew there. She wanted to ride on that bus, even if just once. This wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire. Overwhelming means very large desire. Wally would stare wistfully at the people who got on or off the bus when it stopped at the street corner. Wistfully means longingly or wishfully. Their faces would kindle in her longings, dreams, and hopes. Kindle means set alight, like a fire, but here kindle is used for feelings. If one of her friends happened to ride the bus and try to describe the sights of the town to her, Valli would be too jealous to listen and would shout in English, "Proud, proud." Neither she nor her friends really understood the meaning of the word, but they used it often as a slang expression of disapproval. A slang expression in informal words is often used within a close group. As each day passed, Valli thought that she also wanted to ride on that bus. Her wish became stronger and stronger, and whenever Valli saw people who got on or off the bus, whenever it stopped at the street corner, she got more and more feelings of riding on that bus. Riding on the bus became her dream and hope. And if someday one of her friends happened to ride the bus and tried to describe her experience of the sights of the town to her, Valli would be very jealous and she would just shout at them, saying, "Proud, proud." None of her friends would really understand the meaning of the word, but they only thought that it was just a slang expression of disapproval. That is, they only understood that Valli did not like to be talked about that. Over many days and months, Valli listened carefully to conversations between her neighbors and people who regularly used the bus, and she also asked a few discreet questions. Discreet questions means careful questions, here and there. This way, she picked up various small details about the bus journey. The town was 6 miles from her village. The fare was 30 paise one way, which is almost nothing at all. She heard one well-dressed man say. But to Valli, who scarcely saw that much money from one month to the next, it seemed a fortune. Fortune means a big amount of money. The trip to the town took 45 minutes. On reaching town, if she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise, she could return home on the same bus. This meant that she could take the 1 o'clock afternoon bus, reach the town at 1:45 and be back home by about 2:45. On and on went her thoughts as she calculated and recalculated, planned and replanned. Since Valli was interested in the bus traveling, she listened to the conversation between her neighbors and people who regularly traveled by bus, and she used to ask some careful questions also. So she picked up some details about the bus journey. She knew that the town was about 6 miles from her village and one-way fare was about 30 paise. For others, it was nothing, but for Valli, it seemed like a huge amount of money. The trip to the town would take about 45 minutes, and on reaching town, if she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise while staying in the same bus, she could return home. So she planned that she could take 1 o'clock afternoon bus, reach the town at 1:45 and then be back home by around 2:45. Her thoughts went round and round. She calculated everything properly and also started to plan. Well, one fine spring day, the afternoon bus was just on the point of leaving the village and turning into the main highway when a small voice was heard shouting, "Stop the bus! Stop the bus!" and a tiny hand was raised commandingly. Commandingly means as if giving a command. The bus slowed down to a crawl. and the conductor, sticking his head out the door, said, "Hurry then, tell whoever it is to come quickly." "It's me," shouted Valli. "I'm the one who has to get on." By now the bus had come to a stop, and the conductor said, "Oh, really? You don't say so." "Yes, I simply have to go to town," said Valli, still standing outside the bus. "And here's my money." She showed him some coins. Okay, but first you must get on the bus," said the conductor, and he stretched out a hand to help her up. So one day, Valli planned to travel on bus. She was there for the afternoon bus. When the bus was just on the point of leaving, she tried to stop the bus by raising her hand. The bus slowed down and it stopped. The conductor told her to come quickly and also call other people who were supposed to go on that bus. At that time, Valli told him that she was the only person to travel on the bus. She also showed him some coins which she had carried to buy the ticket. And then the conductor stretched out his hand and helped her climb the bus. "Never mind," she said. "I can get on by myself. You don't have to help me." The conductor was a jolly sort, fond of joking. "Oh, please don't be angry with me, my fine madam." Now here the conductor calls her madam because conductor was a jolly person, like a person who is very fond of joking, and therefore very sarcastically he calls her madam. "Here, have a seat, right up there in front. Everybody move aside, please. Make way for madam." It was the slack time of day, and there were only 6 or 7 passengers on the bus. Slack time means a time when there is not much work. They were all looking at Valli and laughing with the conductor. Valli was overcome with shyness. Overcome with shyness means she felt shy. Avoiding everyone's eyes, she walked quickly to an empty seat and sat down. "May we start now, madam?" the conductor asked, smiling. Then he blew his whistle twice and the bus moved forward with a roar. When the conductor tried to help Valli get on the bus, she told him that she can get on by herself. The conductor was a humorous person. He liked to make jokes, and so jokingly he called her as madam. The conductor told everyone to move aside so that some space for Valli could be made for her to sit. Since it was a time of the day when there was not much work for people, the bus did not have many passengers. It just had 6 or 7 passengers. All the passengers laughed with conductor at Valli, and Valli soon became very shy. So she avoided everyone's eyes and she quickly went and sat on one of the seats. The conductor then sarcastically again asked her if they could start again addressing her as madam. After that, he blew his whistle twice and the bus started to move. It was a new bus, its outside painted a gleaming white with some green stripes along the sides. Inside the overhead bars shone like silver. Directly in front of Valli, above the windshield, there was a beautiful clock. The seats were soft and luxurious. Valli devoured everything with her eyes. Devoured means consumed. But when she started to look outside, she found her view cut off by a canvas blind that covered the lower part of her window. So she stood up on the seat and peered over the blind. Peered means look closely. The bus was now going along the bank of a canal. The road was very narrow. On one side there was a canal, and beyond it, palm trees, grassland, distant mountains, and the blue, blue sky. On the other side was a deep ditch, and then acres and acres of green fields. Green, 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 as far as the eye could see. Ditch is a narrow channel dug at the side of a road. Valli now began to observe the bus. The bus was new, and it was painted with white and green stripes along the sides. The overhead bars also were new and they were shining like silver. And directly in front of Valli, there was a beautiful clock. The seats of those bus were soft and luxurious or very expensive. Valli looked at everything with her beautiful eyes. But when she started to look outside, she could not see it properly because she was short and half of the window was covered with a blind. So she stood up on the seat and looked outside the window. The bus was now going along the bank of a canal. The road was very narrow. On one side of the canal, there were palm trees, grassland, mountains, and blue sky. And on the other side of the road, there was a deep ditch. And across the ditch, there were green fields all stretched out as far as the eye could see. Oh, it was so wonderful. Suddenly, she was startled by a voice. Startled means scared. Listen, child, said the voice. You shouldn't stand like that. Sit down. Sitting down, she looked to see who had spoken. It was an elderly man who had honestly been concerned for her, but she was annoyed by his attention. There's nobody here who's a child, she said haughtily. Haughtily means proudly. I have paid my 30 paise like everyone else. The conductor chimed in. Oh, sir, but this is a very grown up madam. Do you think a mere girl could pay her own fare and travel to the city all alone? Valli shot an angry glance at the conductor and said, I am not a madam. Please remember that you have not yet given me my ticket. Valli found everything very beautiful and wonderful. But then again, quickly she was scared by a voice. An elderly man suggested her to sit down, otherwise she would fall. But she was annoyed with this man because he had distracted her. Valli did not like to be called or considered as a child. She said that she had paid 30 paise like everyone and so she should not be treated as a child. Just then the conductor added in, again jokingly, talking to that elderly man and telling him that this girl is a grown-up madam. How can a small girl pay her own fare and travel to a city all alone? That's not possible. Valli did not like this sarcasm or this joke that was done at her. She did not like that the conductor was making fun of her. And then at last, Valli reminded the conductor to give her a ticket. I'll remember, the conductor said, mimicking her tone. Mimicking means copying. Everyone laughed and gradually Valli too joined in the laughter. The conductor punched a ticket and handed it to her. Just sit back and make yourself comfortable. Why should you stand when you have paid for a seat? Because I want to, she answered, standing up again. But if you stand on the seat, you may fall and hurt yourself when the bus makes a sharp turn or hits a bump. That's why we want you to sit down, child. I am not a child, I tell you, she said irritably. Irritably means angrily. I am 8 years old. Of course, of course. How stupid of me. 8 years. My. The conductor punched a ticket and gave to Valli. And he told Valli to sit down because if the bus takes a sharp turn or hits a bump, then she may fall down. She was just a child. But Valli did not like being called a child. She told him angrily that she was 8 years old. Conductor, again making fun of her, called himself stupid to consider an 8-year-old girl as a child. The bus stopped. Some new passengers got on and the conductor got busy for a time. Afraid of losing her seat, Valli finally sat down. An elderly woman came and sat beside her. Are you all alone, dear? She asked Valli as the bus started again. Valli found the woman absolutely repulsive. Repulsive means causing strong dislike. Such big holes she had in her earlobes and such ugly earrings in them. And she could smell the betel nut the woman was chewing and see the betel juice that was threatening to spill over her lips at any moment. Who could be sociable with such a person? Yes, I am traveling alone, she answered curtly, and I have got a ticket too. Curtly means showing displeasure. Yes, She's on her way to town, said the conductor, with a 30 paise ticket. Oh, why don't you mind your own business? Said Valli. But she laughed all the same, and the conductor laughed too. Now the bus stopped, and some more new passengers got on the bus. Valli finally sat down because she did not want to lose her seat. An old woman came and sat beside her and inquired whether she was traveling all alone. That woman had a very strange personality. She had big earlobes and very ugly earrings in them. She was chewing betel nut, and the betel juice was just spilling over her lips. Valli did not like the way that woman looked. When this woman asked whether she was traveling alone or not, at that time Valli angrily told her that she was traveling alone and she has got a ticket too. With that, the conductor also added that she had a 30 paise ticket and she was traveling alone to the town. Valli did not like the remarks which the conductor was making, but at the end she became so friendly that they both laughed together. But the old woman went on with her drivel. Drivel means silly nonsense. Is it proper for such a young person to travel alone? Do you know exactly where you are going in town? What's the street? What's the house number? You need not bother about me. I can take care of myself, Valli said, turning her face towards the window and staring out. Her first journey. What careful, painstaking, elaborate plans she had had to make for it. Painstaking means painful. She had thriftily saved whatever stray coins came her way, resisting every temptation to buy peppermints, toys, balloons, and the like, and finally she had saved a total of 60 paise. Thriftily means spend money carefully. How difficult it had been, particularly that day at the village fair, but she had resolutely stifled a strong desire to ride the merry-go-round even though she had the money. Resolutely stifled means suppressed or controlled with determination. The old woman who sat beside Valli started to ask many more questions. She wanted to know why such a young person like Valli was traveling alone. She wanted to know where she was going in the town, what was the street or the house number that she wanted to go to. Valli did not entertain that conversation, and finally she faced towards the window and stared out. We all now know that it was Valli's first journey, and how careful and painful it must have been for her to make such plans. She had very carefully saved all the money that she got, all the coins that came her way. She did not eat the peppermints, she did not buy toys or balloons. She saved a total of 60 paise. And we can imagine that it must have been so difficult for her when she went to that village fair. She had the money, but she resisted to sit on that merry-go-round because she wanted to save that money to have a ride on the bus. This shows that Valli was very good at calculation and planning for her desire to come true. After she had enough money saved, her next problem was how to slip out of the house without her mother's knowledge. But she managed this without too much difficulty. Every day after lunch, her mother would nap from about 1 to 4 or so. Valli always used these hours for her excursions as she stood looking from the doorway of her house. Excursions means trips, or sometimes even ventured out into the village. Ventured out means went cautiously or courageously. Today, these same hours could be used for her first excursion outside the village. After carefully saving the money, Valli now had to think about how she could go out of the house without telling her mother. But it was very easy for her because every day after lunch, her mother used to take a small sleep from 1 to 4. Valli always used this time of the afternoon to go out or to venture out whenever she stood at the doorway of her house. Sometimes she went into the village, she roamed about and then came back. But today, the same hours she used to go on a bus trip. The bus rolled on now, cutting across a bare landscape, now rushing through a tiny hamlet or past an odd wayside shop. Hamlet is a settlement which is smaller than a village. Sometimes the bus seemed on the point of gobbling up another vehicle that was coming towards them, or a pedestrian crossing the road. Pedestrian is one who walks on the road. But lo, somehow it passed on smoothly, leaving all obstacles safely behind. Trees came running towards them, but then stopped as the bus reached them and simply stood there helpless for a moment by the side of the road before rushing away in the other direction. Suddenly, Valli clapped her hands with glee. Glee means happiness. A young cow, tail high in the air, was running very fast, right in the middle of the road, right in front of the bus. The bus slowed to a crawl, and the driver sounded his horn loudly again and again. But the more he honked, the more frightened the animal became, and the faster it galloped. Galloped means jumped and walked, always right in front of the bus. Valli was now interested in what was happening outside. The bus crossed a bare landscape. Bare landscape means a land which had no trees or plants. It even crossed a hamlet or many odd wayside shops. Sometimes it felt to Valli as if the bus would gobble up or eat up another vehicle that was coming from the opposite direction, or it may even eat up the people who were walking or crossing the road. But then somehow it did not happen that way. She saw that all those obstacles were left safely behind and the bus went forward. The trees looked as if they were running towards them, but then the trees stopped whenever the bus reached at a bus stop. They simply stood there for a moment, looked helpless, and then when the bus started again, the trees again started to run on the opposite side of the direction. All this the Valli observed, and she was enjoying every bit of it thoroughly. Suddenly, Valli clapped her hands with happiness. She saw that a young cow was running in the middle of the road right in front of the bus. The driver sounded his horn loudly again and again, but the more he horned, the more frightened the animal became and the faster it would jump on the road. Somehow, this was very funny to Valli. She laughed and laughed until there were tears in her eyes. "Hey lady, haven't you laughed enough?" called the conductor. "Better save some for tomorrow." At last the cow moved off the road, and soon the bus came to a railroad crossing. A speck of a train could be seen in the distance, growing bigger and bigger as it drew near. Speck means a small size. Then it rushed past the crossing gate with a tremendous roar and rattle, shaking the bus. Then the bus went on and passed the train station, from where it traversed a busy, well laid out shopping street and turning, entered a wider thoroughfare. Traversed means travelled across, and thoroughfare is a busy public road. Such big, bright looking shops! What glittering displays of clothes and other merchandise! Such big crowds! Merchandise are things for sale. Struck dumb with wonder, Valli gaped at everything. Struck dumb means unable to speak, and gaped means stared. Then the bus stopped and everyone got off except Valli. The scene of the cow seemed very funny to Valli. She laughed and laughed until there were tears in her eyes. Finally, the cow moved off the road and the bus moved forward, or it went forward until a railway crossing. She could see a small size of train in the distance, and as the train came nearer, it grew bigger and bigger. Then, when the train rushed past the crossing gate, there was a big roar, there was a loud noise, and the bus started to shake. Then the bus went on. It crossed the road and went into a very busy area, public area, which was a shopping street. Valli was interested in looking at bright shops The displays of clothes and other things which were for sale, they were all glittering, and there were crowds of people in that area. Valli just stared at everything because she was so surprised to see such a sight. Finally, the bus stopped at a bus stop and everyone got off except Valli. She kept on sitting in the bus. Hey lady, said the conductor, aren't you ready to get off? This is as far as your 30 paise takes you. No, Valli said. I'm going back on this same bus. She took another 30 paise from her pocket and handed the coins to the conductor. Why? Is something the matter? No, nothing's the matter. I just felt like having a bus ride. That's all. Don't you want to have a look at the sights now that you are here? All by myself? Oh, I would be much too afraid. Greatly amused by the girl's way of speaking, the conductor said, But you weren't afraid to come in the bus. Nothing to be afraid of about that, she answered. Well then, why not go to that stall over there and have something to drink? Nothing to be afraid of about that either. Oh no, I couldn't do that. Well, then let me bring you a cold drink. When everyone got off the bus but Valli didn't, the conductor started to ask her questions. The conductor inquired why she was not getting off. At that time, Valli replied to him that she wanted to go back on the same bus. She had come here only for a bus ride and she had another 30 paise for her ticket back home. The conductor was really amused by how the girl spoke. The conductor advised Valli to move around or roam around in that area now that she has come. But Valli was too scared to go into that crowd. She preferred sitting in the bus. The conductor was very amused by Valli's behavior. He even offered her a cold drink, but she refused to drink anything. No, I don't have enough money. Just give me my ticket, that's all. It'll be my treat and not cost you anything. No, no, she said firmly. Please, no. The conductor shrugged and they waited until it was time for the bus to begin the return journey. Again, there weren't many passengers. Won't your mother be looking for you? The conductor asked when he gave the girl her ticket. No one will be looking for me, she said. The bus started and again there were the same wonderful sights. Valli wasn't bored in the slightest and greeted everything with the same excitement she had felt the first time. But suddenly she saw a young cow lying dead by the roadside, just where it had been struck by some fast-moving vehicle. The conductor of the bus was very nice, friendly and a kind-hearted person. He wanted to buy a cold drink for Valli, but Valli refused. The bus waited until it was time for it to begin the return journey. Again, there were not many passengers in the bus. The bus started again and Valli could see the same wonderful sights. She wasn't bored this time and she saw everything with the same excitement as she had seen them for the first time. But suddenly she saw that same young cow lying dead by the roadside. Probably it was hit by some fast moving vehicle. Seeing that dead cow did not make her very happy. She became sad. Isn't that the same cow that ran in front of the bus on our trip to town? She asked the conductor. The conductor nodded, and she was overcome with sadness. What had been a lovable, beautiful creature just a while ago had now suddenly lost its charm and its life and looked so horrible, so frightening as it lay there, legs spread-eagled, a fixed stare in its lifeless eyes, blood all over. Spread-eagled means spread out. The bus moved on. The memory of the dead cow haunted her, dampening her enthusiasm. Haunted means returned repeatedly to her mind, or it was impossible for her to forget. She no longer wanted to look out the window. She sat thus, glued to her seat, until the bus reached her village at 3:40. She stood up and stretched herself. Then she turned to the conductor and said, Well, sir, I hope to see you again. Okay, madam, he answered her, smiling. Whenever you feel like a bus ride, come and join us, and don't forget to bring your fare. Valli became very sad to see that lovable and beautiful cow, which was just jumping around everywhere, and now suddenly that same cow lay dead. The cow now looked so horrible and frightening. It had spread out its legs, and his eyes were now lifeless. His whole body was covered with blood. As the bus moved on, the memory of the dead cow kept haunting her. She could not forget that cow. Because of her sadness, she could not get that enthusiasm back in her. This was the moment when she realized the difference between life and death. This was the moment when she looked at that dead cow. She understood what really death was. That death makes a lively person into a lifeless body. A body filled with blood, a body that had no energy in it, looked so horrible to her. That is when she understood the mystery of life and death. She no longer looked out of the window. She just sat quietly on her seat until the bus reached her village. When it reached the village, she smiled at the conductor and she said that she would see him soon again. At that, the conductor replied to her that she can join the bus ride whenever she liked, but she should never forget to carry her fare. But leaving all that behind, now she had to go home. Her bus ride was over, but she was happy that she could make it. She laughed and jumped down from the bus. Then away she went, running straight for home. When she entered her house, she found her mother awake and talking to one of Valli's aunts, the one from South Street. This aunt was a real chatterbox, never closing her mouth once she started talking. Chatterbox means a talkative person. And where have you been? Said her aunt when Valli came in. She spoke very casually, not expecting a reply. So Valli just smiled and her mother and aunt went on with her conversation. After getting off the bus, Valli went straight running to her home. When she entered her house, she found one of her aunts there. This aunt was a chatterbox. That is, she was such a talkative person that she would never keep quiet once she started talking. When the aunt asked her where she had been, which was just a casual question, Valli did not reply to that question and she just smiled at her. And after that, Valli's mother and the aunt again resumed their conversation. Yes, you're right, her mother said. So many things in our midst and in the world outside. How can we possibly know about everything? And even when we do know about something, we often can't understand it completely. Can we? Oh, yes, breathed Valli. What? Asked mother. What's that you say? Oh, said Valli. I was just agreeing with what you said about things happening without our knowledge. Just a chit of a girl she is, said her aunt, and yet look how she pokes her nose into our conversation, just as though she were a grown lady. Just a chit of a girl is a phrase which is used to say a young and silly girl. Pokes her nose means takes an interest in something that doesn't concern her. Valli smiled to herself. She didn't want them to understand her smile. But then there wasn't much chance of that, was there? Valli's mother was talking about the world outside. She was talking about how could one possibly know about everything or whatever happened in that world. Or even if they found out what was happening, can anyone actually completely understand? Valli was overhearing their conversation and she said yes. Valli explained that she was just agreeing with what the mother was saying, that about things happening without our knowledge. Valli's aunt did not like her poking her nose or getting interested into that conversation, and she comments on Valli that she behaves like a grown-up lady. After hearing this, Valli smiled to herself. She did not want them to understand the reason behind her smile. And otherwise, also, how could these people understand why she was smiling? Because there was no one who would tell them that she just had a bus ride. She smiled because she had a wonderful experience that day. She smiled because she understood how the world outside was. She smiled because she now understood the difference between life and death. So that was Valli's first experience of riding on a bus. The story Madam Rides the Bus is about an 8-year-old girl Valli and her journey on the bus. According to the society and the people traveling on the bus, Valli was very young to travel alone, but she behaved like an adult to the conductor and paid equally as others. She was annoyed when she was called a child. The bus conductor, who loved to crack jokes, called her Madam comically. Since this story recounts her experiences while riding on the bus, the title given to the story is appropriate. Through this story, we understand that it's okay to dream, but to realize that dream, we need to adopt a planned and calculative approach. Sometimes we have to sacrifice our happiness and wants for the bigger goal. We also understand in the story that death is an inevitable end of every life form. But life goes on for everyone, and so does the world. So, as long as we live, we must make each day of it worth living and experience new things every day. Coming up in a moment are summary and question answers of this chapter. That's all in today's session. Thank you so much for your love and support. But if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so and press the bell icon to receive notifications of my new uploads timely. I'll see you again in my next video for class 10th. Till then, enjoy your life. God bless you and thank you.